This was an unfortunate situation I discovered while making my rounds while hunting, but more about this later. I went up to North Texas, got set up on one of my properties, and the landowner had told me about some rooting that he had going on in one of his fields. So I came in, got parked at the top of the hill, which was in a good location where I could watch this side of the property that's getting rooted, and also do a quick walk and look over other areas of the property, and as it turns out, not too far away from the deer that you saw in the opening. So I did a short walk around before dark, came back, sat in the truck, watched the sun go down, did a walk around after dark, came back to the truck, got set up, and carpe sus, noted some hogs across the road on the neighbor's property. I've seen hogs here before. I'm thinking that maybe some of these hogs are coming across the road and doing the rooting on my landowner's property. So I'm going to sit and watch them for a while. Not only are the hogs in the front pasture, but there are hogs back in the trees as well. As time passed, more hogs came out a little bit further to the north. Now here I've zoomed in quite a bit to about 18 power, and the hogs are in the neighbor's equipment area. These are some pretty good sized hogs. These all look to be adults, in fact. While watching those hogs, I heard some noise much closer to me, and some deer that were bedded down had all stood up. And that is because some coyotes had come in and were scaring them off. Can't tell that these coyotes were necessarily chasing the deer, but the deer certainly didn't want anything to do with them. The coyotes were curious, coming in too close. Now on this property, I only have permission to hunt hogs and not hunt coyotes. So I just sat and bided my time, waiting to see what the coyotes would do. And much to my surprise, this one came in quite close. Now I'm still zoomed in at 9 power here. He's going to mark his territory and just keep coming. This surprises me because he's coming at this point and he's getting into being inside of the focal length of my scope, so he's within 30 yards at this point. And the wind is blowing in his general direction. He's not taking much notice of me, or he just doesn't care. Either way, this would have been an ideal shot. He takes notice of me, not too bothered, and goes on about his business. About this time I start scanning in a circle around me with my handheld, and notice across the road that a lot of the hogs have moved directly in front of the neighbor's house and are crossing his yard. There's somewhere in the order of 25 to 30 pigs in this yard at this point.
Hogs all in the front yard.
Realizing they weren't going to cross the road coming to my pasture, I decided to go on a walkabout, and that's when I discovered this deer. It wasn't there an hour and a half earlier when I did my walk around just after dark, and so I knew it was fresh. I could see that it was still alive. It did move some when I put my light on it, and so I needed to figure out what to do about it. I made a quick call to the landowner. He told me to handle it as best I could, so I decided that I would go ahead and approach the deer, and that's when I discovered he was hung on the top wire of the fence. I put my vest over the deer's head to help keep it calm, examined things more closely, and discovered that his hind legs were crossed over the third wire, so that this deer was essentially trapped between the strands, its hind legs unable to touch the ground, and so this deer was going to die on the fence, either die from exhaustion or the coyotes were going to get it. At this point I tried lifting the deer out with no luck and realized that I was going to have to do some cutting on the fence in order to get it free. So I went back to the truck, got my bolt cutters, came back, and started by cutting the clips that hold the top wire in place here and here. This loosened up the top wire, gave me some room to work with, but I still could not get the deer free, so I had to cut the next clips as well here and here. This produced enough slack where the deer's hind legs were able to touch the ground, but the deer was not putting any weight on its legs. It was just sagging on the wire. However, I was able to work each leg out from between the wires, and then gently grabbed the deer in a bear hug around its hind section, lifted it off the fence, and laid it down on the ground at which time the vest came off of its head and the deer took off running. I think in her struggles and getting tired out, she had lost a lot of sensation in her hind legs, and her first few steps were quite clumsy, but as she got further and further away from me, her gait became more normal, and by about 30 yards or so, she looked like she was running like a normal, healthy deer. I came away with some blood on my hands. She peed on me when I lifted her over the fence, but all in all, this was quite successful. I put the wires back in place using some duct tape so that the cows wouldn't get any ideas about crossing the fence, and then came back later with some straight wire to replace the clips that I had cut. I continued hunting this property and my other properties for the next few hours, but never did get a hog, but went home feeling quite successful.
Optics provided by Third Coast Thermal.